Tim. Welcome to Watch One. Thanks for logging on. Today we are looking at the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Yacht-Master 40mm in 18 karat rose gold. This is the brand new and much talked about 116655, arguably one of the watches of 2015. This watch is revolutionary from a Rolex collector standpoint in a couple of respects. You can see it on our website, watchyouwant.com. Purchase it if you like, and if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now you can see on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. This is the same Rolex 6-digit Yacht-Master case that you remember. The difference here is that with a combination of the new Oysterflex compound metal and rubber strap, as well as the two-tone rose gold and ceramic bezel color treatment, the watch reads completely different than it has in the past. This is a major departure for Rolex, but first, the bare specifications. You're looking at a watch that's about 12 to 12.5 millimeters thick, and from lug to lug, 48 millimeters. 40 millimeters across the narrowest portions of the round, narrowest diagonally opposed portions of the round part of the case. The watch nevertheless reads and feels completely different with the rubber strap. This is a truly transformative feature. This is the first rubber strap equipped on a Rolex watch from the factory. Now, rubber straps are nothing new, and even in the Rolex universe, those of you familiar with the Tudor line know that this has been done before. What hasn't been done is the combination of a precious metal Rolex, or any Rolex for that matter, with a full integrated rubber strap. Rolex, as a matter of fact, avoids the S word and prefers to call this a bracelet. The bracelet has a name too, as you can see reflected in the light of my light box. You can see the highlighted inscribed Oysterflex. So if you want to get your flex on, the Oysterflex is the only way to do it if you're wearing a Rolex. Now the bottom line is it wears unlike any other rubber strap I've experienced, first and foremost because it has this bellows system built in. Now I often call out rubber straps that feature grooves or relief channels underneath, basically anything that lets the wrist breathe, lets heat out, lets moisture out, doesn't trap grit against your skin. For instance, if you're in the sand, the dust, if you're wearing the watch at the beach. But Rolex has taken it to a completely different level with what can only be described as a three-dimensional system of bracing. They contour to the wrist, and Rolex says this has a dual purpose. First, there's the obvious, a relief channel to let out the heat and the sweat and the moisture. But the second purpose is a little bit more, shall we say, structural. It's designed to secure the watch so that it sits evenly on the wrist, basically to fill in the space that might emerge underneath the strap between the junction at the lugs and the curvature where it thins out to bend around the wrist. Now, a lot of straps that conform to a case, that is, that join with the edge of a case showing minimal gap, have a tendency to flare out, and there's a little bit of that with the Oysterflex. What Rolex does that no one else is doing is they add a little bit of volume underneath that portion that wants to flare. So rather than having a hollow underneath it that allows the watch to move around, that bellows actually rides out and contours to the wrist so that you can have a little bit of virtual flare or diameter to the watch. The strap can project outward, but at the same time, it doesn't have free play to move around and flop on your wrist or capsize. Very clever and very impressive. It's one of only a few, well, really, one of only a few ways in which you could reimagine a strap, which has been done to death, but one of several ways in which Rolex has reimagined the strap. I should call it, honestly, a bracelet, because truthfully, it does have metal throughout the entirety of its interior. It's a combination of nickel and titanium inside. Now, I'm not exactly clear on whether or not we're talking about an alloy of the two or separate elements in parallel, but what I can tell you is that it's joined by metal strips that allow it to be anchored at the lugs by a secure bar and then anchored again at the clasp. So you're looking at a level of ergonomics, feel, comfort, and all-weather versatility that you get from rubber, but at the same time, it does have a little bit of that Rolex Oyster bracelet DNA inside with the combination of exotic metals. But make no mistake, extremely flexible. True to its name, this is not a rigid strap in any respect. Now, the clasp is everything you expect of contemporary Rolex. 18 karat Ever Rose, I should say. Rolex Rose Gold. It's just as fade resistant as the rest of the watch. Fully milled out, it's very secure. Closes with a nice, satisfying snick and snap, and it really does give you the feeling that you're looking at something that's a component of a bracelet rather than a junction point on a strap. The quality is Rolex standard, and it's quite stunning in its construction, especially in as much as every interior surface is finished. This is a standard of finish and construction that you would expect from an haute de gamme watch, and it's something that Rolex in recent years has made an increasing part of its repertoire. Very impressive, and it really speaks to Rolex embracing its role as an upscale luxury accessory as well as its traditional heritage as a tool watch. But in that vein of tool watch durability, we see the first implementation of a ceramic bezel on a Rolex Yacht-Master. Now, the Yacht-Master has always set itself apart by using precious metal inserts or full precious metal bezels. Since 1992, that's been the rule, even back when the Submariner, the other sports watch, aquatic sports watch in the Rolex mainstream lineup, was using basically metal inserts, anodized. The Yacht-Master was using yellow gold, it was using platinum inserts. They were always soldered in rather than fixed by any adhesive or snap attachment. Here we get a Cerachrom ceramic bezel that's treated a little bit differently than the ones you'll see on the GMT, the Sea Dwellers, or the Submariner, in as much as there's an impressive amount of relief going on. A matte base, the actual characters, the Arabic numerals, as well as the calibrated indices, are raised from the matte base, so it has 3 dimensions with all of the calibrated indices and the numerals themselves being finished with a high polish. There is an index at 12 o'clock. I want to make a key distinction here because I've seen some online descriptions of the watch describe this as black luminova. It is not. It's a polished triangular index. It's perfectly visible in daylight. It's not something that's going to glow in the dark. Don't mistake that for luminova. But what the watch brings to the table is longevity here. Because of the use of the ceramic, let's face it, even precious metal inserts on the original Yacht-Masters had a tendency to tarnish, to scratch. They were vulnerable to small nicks and knocks in a way that ceramic is not. And the combination of the polished, and you can really see it in the reflection, the polished and the matte elements makes this one of the most dramatic treatments of Rolex Cerachrom that I have seen yet. This has a lot more visual impact than the precious metal-filled polished Cerachrom bezels on the GMT and the other dive watches. I'd also like to call out the dial, which features an exquisite combination of gilt-style text, white print, that classic Rolex shock of red, the Yacht-Master script, as well as applied 18-karat rose gold indices and hands. This is a beautiful composition. It's a matte black, in case you can't tell the exact reflective properties in the light box or on the iPhone here, but it's a matte black base for all of those elements, and it's really quite attractive. Now, the watch does have an Oyster case, water resistant to 100 meters or 330 feet. It's a Yacht-Master, not a Submariner, so it's not a super deep diver. However, what's inside is identical to the current Submariner. It's the Rolex caliber 3135, 31 joules, 4 hertz or 28,800 vibrations per hour. It is a COSC chronometer. It does hack or have stop seconds, so you can set the time to the second against a reference clock. It does have a date quick set. It does have the anti-magnetic parachrom blue hairspring. This is not the silicone hairspring Rolex caliber 2236 that you see in the Yacht-Master 37mm. That's a completely different watch, a completely different case, and a completely different movement. This is a very traditional, modern Rolex automatic movement in a very unconventional combination of case, strap, dial, and bezel. This is the look of 2015 in the Rolex catalog, one of the most talked about watches of the year. You can see this Rolex Oyster Perpetual Yacht-Master 40mm, reference 116655, on our website, watchyouwant.com.